That old tattoo didn't look like much, just a faded mark on weathered skin. A group at the center table of the diner chuckled, stealing glances at the elderly man sitting alone in the corner. He was frail, with a shock of white hair, dressed in a threadbare coat, his right arm bearing a blurry tattoo. He said nothing, just cradled a glass of water. But moments later, a young Navy SEAL walked in, and when his eyes landed on that tattoo, the room fell silent. Would you stand up or look away like everyone else? It was a busy Sunday morning at the New Haven Diner, packed with people enjoying Veterans Day discounts. In a corner booth, an elderly man in his 80s, thin and with a prosthetic arm, sat quietly with a modest tray of food and a glass of water. His name was Thomas Carter, once a communications specialist with SEAL Team Delta in 1969. No medals, no uniform, just a worn gray jacket and an old tattoo on his right wrist, a trident piercing a star. For men at a nearby table glanced over mid-bite. Probably just scribbled it on himself. One muttered, "That tattoo's older than my dad. What kind of vet doesn't carry a card?" A server approached, her voice soft but uneasy. "I'm sorry, sir. Someone said you're making them uncomfortable. Could you move to the patio?" Thomas nodded silently, picking up his tray. He stood, leaning heavily on his cane, his prosthetic arm making each step a challenge. As he shuffled toward the door, a kid in line tugged at his mom's sleeve. "Why's that man's arm so weird?" The mother hushed him. "Just an old drifter, don't stare." Passing the table of men, one raised his voice. "If he's a SEAL, I'm the president." Laughter erupted. Thomas didn't flinch, but a single tear hit the floor. No one intervened. The manager, watching from the counter, hesitated, then turned to another customer. Thomas pushed the glass door open with his shoulder, balancing his tray, cane, and pride. The sunlight outside stung his eyes as he scanned the nearly empty patio for a seat. Maybe that's why they sent him out here, out of sight, out of mind. Each step was a struggle. The prosthetic arm, decades old, clicked faintly, long overdue for repairs he couldn't afford. His pension barely covered rent and pills. A young waitress, only a month on the job, watched through the window, her brow furrowed. Something about the way he carried himself head high despite the slight struck her. There was dignity there, buried under years of being overlooked. Thomas settled at a small patio table, carefully setting down his tray before easing into a chair. His food, cold eggs and toast, the Veterans Day special he'd saved for, was simple. He glanced back at the lively diner. Inside, people laughed and swapped stories. Out here, it was just him and the hum of passing cars. This wasn't new. This divide between him and others who saw only an old man, not the life behind him. I'm sorry if this stirs emotions as I write. Thomas Carter had served in SEAL Team Delta, managing comms and intel during covert ops. In 1971, he lost his arm to a grenade during a recon mission near the Cambodian border. No parade welcomed him home. Many of his ops were classified. He settled in Oregon, running a small electronics repair shop for 30 years, teaching kids how to fix radios and helping neighbors with free repairs. He never spoke of his service, carrying only his tattoo and a faded letter from his old commander. "To the quietest warrior I ever led." Every Veterans Day, Thomas visited a diner not for the discount, but to honor a promise to a fallen friend, lost in that same 1971 blast. Each year, he faced misunderstanding, shooed away like a vagrant, but he never argued. The soft-spoken repairman just moved on, bearing memories few could grasp. His neighbors knew him as Kind Tom, the guy who fixed their kids' walkie-talkies and always waved hello. They didn't know his arm was lost saving 2 teammates during a botched intel drop, or that the burns on his hands came from dragging a wounded buddy through gunfire. This diner was special. His friend, Michael Reed, had carried a photo of it, promising they'd eat there together when they got home, a vow made the night before their last mission. In 1971, Thomas's team was tasked with securing a comms relay in hostile territory. Michael, the team's lead scout, swore they'd celebrate with the diner's famous pancakes. They were 6 miles from safety when the grenade hit. Thomas, dazed and bleeding, saw Michael's body being covered. Despite his injury, he relayed coordinates through a failing radio, guiding a chopper to save 4 others. Michael didn't make it. Each year, Thomas honored that promise with a meal, sometimes pancakes, sometimes just coffee. The tattoo, a trident through a star, wasn't standard seal ink. It was unique to their 8-man unit. As far as Thomas knew, he might be the last to bear it. As Thomas reached the patio's edge, the diner's back door swung open. A young man in civilian clothes, buzzcut and purposeful, stepped in. Ethan Hayes, 26, an active-duty SEAL on leave, froze when he saw the tattoo on Thomas's wrist. "Excuse me, sir," he said, voice steady. "Were you with Delta Team?" Thomas looked up, startled. "Long time ago, but yes." Ethan snapped to attention, saluting sharply in the crowded diner. "Sir, you're the one they talk about in training. You're Carter, T9, aren't you?" Thomas's throat tightened. Ethan turned to the counter. "This diner has no right to push him out. If anyone's uncomfortable around a hero, they can step outside." The men at the nearby table went red, one slinking out. An older woman stood, clapping slowly. Then a whole row of patrons followed. Thomas squeezed Ethan's hand. "Thank you, son." One person seeing methods enough. Ethan wasn't done. He stepped to the diner's center. This man coordinated 15 extractions during Operation Nightfall. That tattoo was forged in sacrifice, not a parlor. "I'm here because men like him set the standard." The room went still, cups paused, forks frozen. Ethan continued. "In training, they tell us about shadow teams who made the impossible possible. Thomas Carter's comms protocols are still taught. His intel saved more lives than most field docs." The manager, shaken, approached. "Sir, we're sorry for the mix-up. Your meal's on us, and we'd be honored if you'd return any time." Thomas gave a small smile. "No need for that. I just came to remember a friend." Ethan softened. "May I join you, sir? I'd like to hear about him." Thomas nodded, and they took the best table inside, not the patio. The men who'd mocked earlier watched, silent. One by one, they left, meals unfinished. The young waitress approached with fresh coffee, voice shaky. "I'm sorry about earlier. My grandpa was in Vietnam, too. He never talked about it." Thomas looked up. "What was his name?" "Michael Reed," she said. "He died before I was born." Thomas's hand trembled as he pulled out a worn photo. "Your grandpa," he said, "promised me pancakes here someday." A week later, the local paper ran a story, "The Old Soldier and the Salute That Stopped a Diner." The photo of Ethan saluting Thomas went viral, shared millions of times. People flocked to the diner, asking about Thomas, stunned to learn he lived nearby. Kids sent him letters, begging for his stories. Ethan returned to duty, but wrote Thomas monthly. The next spring, the town held a ceremony for 12 unsung veterans, with Thomas speaking first. "I'm no one special," he said. "Just someone who did his job and lived quietly." His repair shop became a hub for veterans, offering not just fixes, but a place to be heard. For Memorial Day, Thomas spoke at schools not about himself, but about service and remembering the fallen. His tattoo, once mocked, inspired a plaque outside City Hall, "Honor the Unseen." Ethan's career grew, but he always shared Thomas's story with recruits, about the comms officer who saved countless lives.